Hi, it's Satya. See me on the web at jensatya.com. And today I'd like to talk about the other side of people feeling sick right now, which is chemical exposure with this coronavirus issue. So, a lot of my clients are chemically sensitive, and a lot of us are chemically sensitive and don't even realize it. So, I'm going to address in this video how to look at chemical sensitivity with all that's going on right now and things getting sprayed and people really overusing some disinfectants that actually aren't that effective with this particular virus, and I talk about that in another video. And then also what we can do to minimize the effects of chemicals on us and what we're bringing into our home, and also how it's affecting our children and our animals. So this is going to be a video that's a little longer than the last couple because I feel like this is a lot of important information for keeping ourselves healthy. And so I hope this is useful for you. I look forward to hearing from you in the comments and or reach out anytime. So there are many ways that we are being exposed to chemicals in amounts that our bodies are not used to right now. And with the amount of cleaning that's going on in stores, from bleach to different sprays to actual food being sprayed, cans being sprayed, bottles being sprayed. And while a store may not be spraying something directly, just having cleaned shelves and then putting things back, having sprayed around where produce is. There's a lot of different ways that we're coming into contact with chemicals. And then we also have the fact that people are spraying their homes and using bleach and different cleaners. And by the way, bleach is not optimal. Soap, hydrogen peroxide, and I have information on that in another video. There are so many different ways that we're getting cleaners. And then there's the ways that we're not really thinking about. So many of us purchase on Amazon and purchase on different online stores and are having much more activity on those websites and many more things coming into the home that have been packaged. And we need to recognize that Amazon is spraying, and all of these places that we're ordering from are using cleaners much more than they used to, and we're getting emails on how they're doing that. And while on the one hand those emails are making a lot of people feel safe, anyone who knows anything about chemical sensitivity and has any chemical sensitivity is probably not feeling that safe, because there's no control on limiting how we're cleaning right now. And I get it. I get the scare that's out there, and I get the importance of ensuring that we're cleaning. And I do feel that before this whole crisis, there was a challenge with hygiene in many respects. And at the same time, I do think that we need to be very conscious of the fact that when we increase chemical usage, we're inhaling that, we're getting that through the skin, and we're eating it in some respects, that we need to recognize that our bodies have to deal with that. Our liver has to deal with that. Our gallbladder, our stomach, our whole digestive system, our immune system has to deal with that. And so we need to understand how that can occur, how to notice what's going on, and how to ensure that we're minimizing as much as we can what we're taking into our body from a chemical perspective. So first, let's look at how we can notice if we are having a reaction to chemicals. There are three main things I'm seeing in clients, and the first one is that they're having what people are calling heat rushes or mini heat flashes, so hot flashes. And that's because when we're taking in more chemicals, we might have a hormone response. And so coming home from grocery shopping and unpacking food and suddenly having some heat rushes could be that you're taking in extra chemicals and your body is having a little bit of a challenge dealing with them. So that's one way to notice. Another way to notice is itching. Our skin is a great agent for letting us know what's going on in the body. So from rashes to just itching to little bumps on the skin, our skin will often tell us when the body's having a hard time clearing something. So just noticing that. And then the third thing is actually emotional changes. I'm hearing from clients that they're having anxiety or feeling really nervous in stores, And I think part of that for many people is what they're inhaling when they're in the store. So I'm going to talk next about what we can do to minimize this. And before I get to that though, I'd like to talk a little bit about how to notice what's going on in your animals. Because animals and also your children. So the next part of the video, we're going to talk about animals and children. And then after that, I'll talk about what to do to minimize. So how to know if your child is having some challenges with chemicals. If they're suddenly having any kind of emotional shifts that they didn't have before this crisis, they could be having some chemical exposure, especially if they were just somewhere that had extra chemicals. Another way to notice, because that aspect can also be related to the fact that they're having to be inside so much, and or if they're watching a lot more TV, they can have emotional shifts occur like that. Another way to notice is watch them if they're scratching a lot. Because just like adults, if your child is scratching their skin a lot, that's probably something going on inside. Now, again, that can be emotional because they're feeling stuck indoors. So we need to check in and be aware of what's going on. Often what I'll see with children is their natural tendencies or natural weaknesses will come out right now. So for instance, all of us have certain things that our body goes to. As a homeopath, these are things that are very telling of the constitution of an individual. So for instance, if I am under stress and my natural tendency is when I'm under stress, I get a migraine, or my natural tendency when I'm under stress is my lower back hurts. Those are very telling of how the constitution deals with stress. So what we're going to see in children is whatever their natural tendency is for stress can come out more if they're exposed to chemicals. So if your child has eczema, that might come out more. And of course, again, that can also come out from stress. So we need to figure out which one it is. So those are some thoughts on children. Now, animals. Animals can't tell us what's going on, and we don't always know what their tendencies are because we may not really understand it sometimes, especially if it's a cat that doesn't come up to us that much, because sometimes animals, when they go to their stress response, actually go hide. So, and that alone could be telling us what's going on if your animal is hiding more than usual. Now, animals have different ways that they talk to us, and I'm going to be talking more about animals in another video, as well as doing a class for animals if you're interested. So animals talk to us in various ways, and one way, when they're not feeling well from taking in too many chemicals, because what's happening right now with some people is that when they're bringing things into the home that have chemicals on them, cats, especially when they're under stress, tend to lick things more, and especially certain breeds, and so they might be licking the chemicals more. So if you're seeing your cat regurgitate more, and it's not related to a hairball, and it's a color that you're not expecting, so different colors of vomit mean different things for cats. So for all living beings, green can be more bile, and brown can have digestive issues and or ulcers or things like that. So you just really want to look at what's coming up as well, and is it a regular thing. Urinary tract infections can be pretty common in animals when they're under stress. And behavioral changes, if they're hiding more or being more reactive, or if you have multiple animals in a home and you're suddenly finding that one of them is getting more aggressive. So all of these can be, again, both stress and chemical exposure. And at the same time, if you're noticing that they're having these reactions when you bring more into the home that's probably been sprayed, and or you're seeing them licking things more, then it's likely that there's a chemical aspect, and you might want to keep them away from the boxes of things when you're bringing them into the home. In the next part of this video, I'm going to talk about how to minimize exposure for you, your animals, and your children. So now I'm going to offer a few tips on how to minimize the chemical exposure. And the first one is call the stores ahead of time and see when they're spraying, and try not to go within an hour or two of when they're cleaning. So if you are someone who's sensitive to chemicals and they are doing massive cleaning in the morning before they open, wait until noon to go. And I realize the lines might be longer in the middle of the day for various reasons. And at the same time, I think you need to recognize that if you are feeling that exposure, that first hit when they've just sprayed everything is going to be when more is in the air, and so you might have a challenge with that. Another thing to consider is wearing gloves of any type when you go, and it doesn't mean that you have to wear gloves that are the plastic gloves that we're really trying to keep for the healthcare workers right now. You can wear ski gloves. I mean, I don't think anyone cares right now what anyone looks like while they're grocery shopping. Not that anyone actually ever did, but more so now. And so I would say wear any kind of gloves so that the chemicals aren't getting directly on your skin and then you're not touching your face. So that's an option. And another one is to ensure when you're going into places that have just been sprayed that your body is covered with clothing. And what I mean by that is don't walk into a grocery store with a tank top right now. Wear clothing that when you get home, and that's the next step, so when you get home from grocery shopping, change your clothes, jump in the shower real quick. It's a similar thing for anyone who has allergies and doesn't know this trick. If you have allergies when you go outside during the summer or spring, when you have allergies, when you get home, you should always rinse off thoroughly, including your hair, to get any allergens off your body. It helps you with allergies. So it's a similar thing. And also, there's a little trick. When you're somewhere where you're inhaling a lot of chemicals, when you're in the shower, blowing out each nostril so the chemicals blow out of your nose, that's helpful as well. And now a tip for when you are ordering things online. So when we get things online, we're being told anyway to wash things that come into the house. And at the same time, we're not being that careful with how we're opening packages. I'm encouraging anyone who's chemically sensitive to open the package either in a separate room that you're going to keep closed, so that's kind of the more chemical room, and or open the packages outside, let them air out for a few minutes, because that initial opening of a package that has chemicals in it is going to release a lot of chemicals. And especially if you have clothing that you are purchasing online. Clothing was already pretty chemically dense. If you have clothing that you're ordering online, it's even more so right now. Hang it up somewhere. If you can hang it up somewhere overnight that's outside, so some of those chemicals can really release. And make sure you wash any clothing before you wear it, especially right now, if you want to reduce chemical exposure. When you get things inside that you're going to wash, a little trick for those of us that don't have gloves is the plastic bags that we put produce in. Just put those on your hands when you're washing things off. It's like little mini gloves, and cheap and easy, and you don't have to take the gloves away from healthcare workers who really need them, and I'm going to keep pushing that point. So I think that about covers it for now. I'll probably do another one of these soon, and I hope that's helpful in you figuring out some ways that you can limit your chemical exposure. Thanks so much, in good health, and look forward to next time. Blessings.